Okay, well, I finally got my replacement printer. I used to have a Raise 3 N2 Plus, which was the dual extruder large format printer. It was 12 by 12 by 12, and I really liked the large size because it allowed me to do prints that were, well, that second Flash Gordon ship, that was done in two halves, the split being done right up at the front of the ship, and then where the rocket motors are, that was the back half. So that was pretty tall. I can't get over there right now because the printer is in the way, but I believe that's almost 11 and a half inches. But also okay, what's wrong with the autofocus? Let's get out of here. There we go. The Earth versus the Flying Saucers ship, I've got a video on my YouTube channel, Tesla B7701, that shows the Raise 3 doing this. And I was really pushing the limits of its width because it was linear. It was a linear gantry in the X and Y axis, and Z also, but the X and Y was more notoriously problematic because linear bearings tend to bind if they're not perfectly centered and no stress either angle on their body. And the problem with the Raise, I hope I'm explaining that right, the Raise 3, its sheer weight and size almost guaranteed that it was going to get rough treatment in its transatlantic flight or trans-Pacific flight, and or really I think it was on a boat, a little too big to be shipping air. It would have been way too expensive. Anyways, it really was tweaked, and the gantry would bind in the corners on the front left and the rear right. And so making circles was very difficult, and that was about as big as I could get with that particular setup, and never could really correct it. So I looked for a suitable replacement. Wasn't going to spend another $4,000 on the Raise 3 because they went to a Bowden feed, and there were a few other things that, and I'm not a fan of Bowden, even though this is the Creality Ender 5 Plus, and it has a gantry similar, but it's not a true. It's not using linear bearings. It's using rollers, but I'm going to be replacing that anyways. I've got a replacement Exo. I'll do a second video when it comes in showing the installation, not complete. Anyways, it's going to be a lot easier to get set up. Plus, I'm going to be building this so I can get the alignment of the accuracy of the squareness spot on as I go in. I'm going to be replacing these corner pieces here, which are presently plastic. There's metal upgrades. I'm going to be changing those. I'm also changing. I've got new parts that I've gotten. I've got new anti-backlash mounts for the lead screws, and that was another thing I liked about this. It, like the Raise 3, is a four-corner support on the Z-axis, not this cantilever, which I don't care what anybody says, no matter what you do, and I did it with my MakerBot Rep 2, you're always going to get some minor vibration or major vibration in that cantilever out at the extremes, no matter what you do. So I've always preferred a four-corner supported Z-axis, but I want to make sure I get rid of any kind of slop and these anti-backlash screws are supposed to help. I've also got upgraded motors or fans because I want to do a dual cooling setup on the printhead. I've got the, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name right now, Teflon tubing that's going to replace what's presently on the Bowden, which I'm going to get away from the Bowden eventually and do a direct drive. But the advantage to this particular tubing is it's just barely larger than the 1.75 diameter of the filament. And in a Bowden feed, you're going to have problems with filament bouncing around inside the Teflon tubing, imparting inaccuracies to your feeding. I just can't believe that there's no way around it. The advantage of the Bowden is it gets the mass off of the gantry, but in this setup, I think it can tolerate, and I also found a very tiny, tiny for its purpose, direct drive feed that I want to adapt to this. I've also got the metal upgrades for the extruder feed. I'm not going to go through all the video because there's two great websites or YouTube channels, 3D Printing Nerd, who is fantastic, and also Kensley Fabrication, another fine channel. I've learned a lot about this printer from those two gentlemen, and plus their videos are just plain entertaining and captivating. You can just sit there and listen to these guys talk and feel comfortable that it's accurate information and not just hot gas. So I really recommend their channels. This is the Z-bed for the Ender 5 Plus, and as you can see, it's in excess. I think it's 350. Matter of fact, I know it's 350, 350, 400, which is perfect. And I will be getting the enclosure. There's a third-party company that does a really nice enclosure because temperature stability is really crucial to any kind of printing. Even though the majority of mine is PLA, it still has an impact if there's drafts or anything, and you're always going to get drafts. I've got a heater vent down there. During the winter and during the summer, you're going to get the hot air in the winter, cold air in the summer from the air conditioning. And even though this is going to be up here on this particular table, it's going to create a problem. So I'm going to set this down, and I'll pull back and we'll do a kind of a partial build video. I'm not going to do a whole elaborate build video, but enough to give you guys the idea. So let me set this up differently.